Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, May 8th. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by Jason Cabrera. What's up, Jason?
What is going on, man? Just you and me again, huh?
Just you and me. I guess CJ can't be bothered with this whole draft nonsense thing. No, in reality, we unfortunately, CJ has another job, as we all do, and he's a little bit busy right now. So it's okay. We're holding down the fort. I mean, this is kind of our wheelhouse anyway. So we're happy to be here, and we're going to bring you guys all the need-to-know information that you need based on today's topic, which you may or not have noticed based on what you downloaded, the link you saw in your player of choice, which today we have an amazing show because we're going to be talking about the winners and losers post the NFL draft. So today we're going to be going all around the AFC. We're going to do our best to get it in within an hour. In fact, we're going to set a time limit. Last time we did this, it was pretty effective. So we're going to have about 3 minutes to talk about each team, players that we think won and lost. And, we're going to not just focus on the draft. We're going to recap kind of the whole offseason to this point. But the focus is, of course, the most recent swing based on teams' additions and what they didn't add even in the NFL draft just a couple weeks ago. Man, I can't believe it's already been a while. If you guys enjoy the show, you want to support the show, easiest way to do that is subscribe wherever you're listening on the Apple Podcast app, Stitcher, Google Play, Podcast Addict. It works. We are a year-round podcast, as you may have noticed by the fact that we are podcasting consistently in the January, February, March, April, and now May to this point. If you want to go further and support the show, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourselves bonus perks, including a bonus episode every single week. But we understand that if that's not possible for you, the easiest way to help the show out even more, simply whichever one of those services that you are listening on, that you subscribe on, give us a rating, give us a review. Helps the show out more than we could ever say. With that, I had a warm-up, but I took it off because I wanted to wait for CJ to be here, so I think we're going to talk about it on Friday. We're starting to get a lot of keeper questions, a lot of dynasty questions, so we're going to start diving into those questions soon. But we'll start with the top headlines from around the league and just rapid fire really fast. We have the NFL Top 100, so the players who finished, I just mentioned, in the top 100, numbers 80 through 71 this time. So just really fast. Kevin Bard was 80. He's a safety for Tennessee. He was unrated a year ago. Marcus Peters at number 79, quarterback formerly of the Chiefs, now of the Rams, dropped down from 32. I mean, I know he had a kind of disappointing year, but he's still really, really pretty darn good. Number 78, Taylor Lewan, tackle from Tennessee. He dropped from 72, so not a huge drop there. Big drop here, no surprise, due to injury. Number 77 was Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver for the Giants. He was number 8 a year ago. Number 76, Melvin Ingram, defensive end for the Los Angeles Chargers. He was unrated a year ago. 75, Cam Chancellor, safety for Seattle. He was 34 a year ago. So, I mean, that whole Seattle secondary really kind of, they had a rough year.
Crumbled.
Yeah. 74, Cameron Wake, defensive end from Miami. He was 62 a year ago, so pretty consistent still. Number 73, Thomas Davis, linebacker out of Carolina. He was 89 a year ago, so he actually improved his position. Number 72, Delaney Walker, tight end for Tennessee, 75 a year ago, right about the same. And number 71, Zach Martin, guard out of Dallas. He dropped a bit from 58 just a year ago. These are your top targets. So any of these stand out to you? I mean, obviously Odell Beckham Jr., but injuries happened there. Marcus Peters was a little bit banged up. Most of these other guys didn't have the best year, or they were relatively consistent. So I don't think there's anything too surprising besides those two names on this list. Anything stood out to you?
Not really. I mean, Cam Chancellor is always surprising not to see him up in the upper half of this list. He is a fantastic safety. And Delaney Walker, I kind of expected him to take a little bit bigger jump. I thought he had a pretty good year.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest Delaney Walker fan. I know he's like that old reliable guy who always kind of limps his way to be a tight end one, but
old reliable.
To me, he's one of those guys that has the floor with not much of a ceiling. So, I mean, look, he's a good player. I mean, real life and at the end of the year, he gets you there in fantasy, but he's not that guy that puts up week-winning performances, so that's kind of why I'm like,
But from the tight end position, what do you really want? You just want consistency, and that's kind of what he gives you. Not high consistency, but definitely some consistency.
Yes, it's either Gronk or bust, really. So having something that's at least somewhat consistent is nice. But yeah, those are the names that stood out to me as well. I mean, all of these obviously very good players, or else they wouldn't be on this top 100 players of the league list. So we'll move on. Exactly. Let's go to the quarterback position, where Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz told Good Morning Football that his, quote, goal is to be ready week 1, end quote. To that I say, yeah, I think everybody is hoping that as well. I could see a world where he's ready week 1. I doubt he's going to be 100% no matter what, but I expect him to be ready week 1. I mean, he got hurt pretty far into the year, but I mean, we see people turn this around in about 6 to 8 month timetable, so I could see him out there, probably babying him. But I mean, if not, I mean, it's not like you don't have a Super Bowl winning quarterback right behind him, right? So, what are your thoughts, Jason?
It's true. Probably one of the reasons they didn't try to trade him being Nick Foles. I mean, we don't know, and we talked about that at length. We didn't know when Carson Wentz was going to come back, and the fact that Carson Wentz is not getting much of an off season is a little concerning. So, yeah, keep your eye on Nick Foles.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think Nick Foles didn't go anywhere. Carson Wentz. We see like I said, we see players come back this pretty quickly these days. This is not the RIP to your career injury that it was years ago. But I mean, it usually takes a good year for once they're back, like a whole season before they're really back to their old selves. Than the following year. So I don't expect Carson Wentz to be nearly as mobile. I expect the team to want to protect him by giving him a lot of quick release passes. I don't think he's going to be the same player in 2018 that he was in 2017, or the player that he probably will be in 2019. I think 2018, I don't want to say it's going to be a regression year for him, but they're going to be careful with him. He's their franchise quarterback, and they've made that perfectly clear. So,
should definitely cool down on him, because I think Nick Foles will go somewhere else after this year.
I agree.
Maybe even in the middle of this year once Carson Wentz is healthy. So, yeah, I agree. I think he cooled down a little bit on Carson Wentz.
I agree. So we'll see. Another quarterback news, quarterback Bryce Petty has been claimed off waivers by the Miami Dolphins, ex-New York Jets, so he stays in the division. So, I mean, obviously adding depth, we all expect Ryan Tannehill to be back this year. At least that's kind of the hope and the dream right now, because behind him they have Brock Osweiler. So I think they're hoping Ryan Tannehill is good to go, and if not, Bryce Petty will probably be in there and be competing. So, he's got to win a job still. He's officially 4th on the depth chart, because they also have what's his name, David Fales, whatever his name was. He was with the 49ers last year, if I remember correctly. So, 4 quarterbacks on that roster now. So we'll see if he earns himself a spot come the end of training camp. Let's go to the running back position. This is kind of big news. Unrestricted free agent running back C.J. Anderson has signed with the Carolina Panthers. I don't think it has officially happened yet, but this is all the rumors that are coming out that this is about to. I called it. I thought that for sure that they were going to get themselves one of these big backs. They didn't really get one in the draft, and I thought C.J. Anderson kind of fit that need, and here they are signing him. I mean, that was about a month ago, but it has happened. So remember our early running back ranking show? We got some negative feedback on oh God, why am I blanking on his name? McCaffrey, thank you, Christian McCaffrey, and our ranking of him. And it was because we all expected this to happen, that they're going to bring someone in. And if C.J. Anderson does sign, I mean, who knows? By the time you're listening to this, it may be official. They're going to bring C.J. Anderson in. He'll be probably the first, second down back. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
This is just a word to the wise about this kind of thing. We get this kind of complaint all the time. I've heard some complaints about where we bought Kamara and all this kind of stuff. Look, guys, the fact is that this is the NFL. Okay, if you're a smaller bodied back, okay, chances are you're not going to be the workhorse. You're not going to be a 3-down back because you're smaller. And if you're smaller, you're going to get annihilated. Okay, and that's the bottom line. I'm sorry. They're very, very talented backs. But Kamara cannot carry the ball every single down. He will not last the entire season. And that puts a cap on his production. Same thing with McCaffrey. He cannot carry the load every single down because he won't last. That's why we say those kinds of things. We're not trying to down their talent. We're just saying the bottom physical line is they can't do it. They're gonna get hurt. Teams know that, so they bring in big bruisers to run first and second down, and they bring these guys in as slashers.
Yeah, I mean, we all love Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's a dynamic playmaking back, but like you said, he's not the biggest guy, and odds are that with that frame, we have a long track record in history that we can trace in the NFL that probably will lead to injury. So giving him the full workload, a guy who's not that big to be breaking, through multiple tackles running north-south, it was evident to me that they're going to try and bring someone else in. It looks like C.J. Anderson will be that guy, and now they're going to be competing for touches. I expect Christian McCaffrey to resume his third down back role because, honestly, I would take C.J. Anderson over Jonathan Stewart at this point in their career. So I think C.J. Anderson is a plus at the position, provided, of course, that he can also stay healthy because he's had a lot of lower body injury concerns through his career to this point. Let's go to tight end news. I'm kind of glad CJ's not here for this one. The New Orleans Saints have released tight end Coby Fleener. So the experiment that obviously failed miserably, terribly, and CJ probably would have said something about pitchforks and fire could have been mixed in here. So, yeah.
Not a thing, he's trash. Not a thing, he's trash.
Not a thing, he's now gone. So that is what it is. And with that, let's get to it. While we're all here, the biggest winners and losers of free agency, or not of free agency, of the biggest winners and losers around the AFC. So we're talking not because this was a topic we were going to talk about post-free agency. We decided to postpone it post-draft, and now we're talking about the impacts of what happened from the draft, who was taken, who was not taken, all these fun little effects. So with that being said, I guess we'll start right at the top, and we'll start with my Baltimore Ravens. So let me put 3 minutes on the clock. And Jason, I'm going to throw this to you to begin with, even though it's my team, and go.
All right, winners. I got Joe Flacco as a winner, actually, and the reason is because he got help on his offensive line. Always a good thing for quarterbacks. He also got a couple of talented ball catchers, including a couple of really nice tight ends. Then you got Kenneth Dixon and Alex Collins. Again, offensive line help that never hurts a running back. Plus, they didn't take any running backs. I thought that was very interesting. They didn't take any running backs, especially since it's kind of muddled back there. You thought they might want to go after one of those big studs, but they didn't. They stayed with what they had. As far as losers go, I got Joe Flacco as a loser as well, because he may not be a loser this year, but he is now staring down the barrel of a very, very talented rookie quarterback who's coming up behind him. That's something that could come back to bite him, and plus, he's not handling it very well, so that's not good. And then, of course, Max Williams, the tight end. When you take two tight ends in the draft, including a first-rounder, not a good thing for you.
Yeah, I have to agree. So I thought Alex Collins was a huge winner here, both Alex Collins and Kenneth Dixon, because, like you said, they actually signed 3 running backs, but they were all undrafted rookies, so obviously not too much of a threat there. Max Williams I had down as a huge loser because they did sign 2 guys. And I still think Max Williams has the skill set and the ability to be a surprise talent in this league, and maybe even one day a household name. But now that opportunity is really, really sunk because he's got 2 guys who are now have one guy who has even higher draft stock put into him much more recently. So it's going to be rough for him. He just needs to stay healthy is really what it comes down to. Joe Flacco, obviously a loser because of the signing of one Lamar Jackson. So kind of a big deal. And yeah, I think that we all knew that the writing was kind of on the wall here with Joe Flacco. He has not been elite. I'll be the first to say it. I have not been the biggest Flacco fan for a very long time. And now he's got a dynamic playmaker behind him who will push him. Obviously, we both have had our gripes about mobile quarterbacks, but that doesn't change the fact that neither here nor there. He's here now, and the offensive coordinator, Marty Morningweg, has a lot of experience working with mobile quarterbacks. He was the offensive coordinator in Philly, or the quarterback coach in Philly. He did both, working with Michael Vick in the past. So RG3, Lamar Jackson there. The Ravens are seemingly trying to shift their identity on offense, and maybe that'll be for the better. Who knows? Only time will tell. Defense didn't really get that much of an overhaul because it was already pretty darn good, and some offensive line help. So as a whole, I like the Ravens, and those are, to me, the biggest winners and losers. Any parting thoughts? We got about 5 seconds.
Really? Wow, I thought we were overtime. No, like I said, I wish Joe Flacco would just handle this a little bit better. Maybe another team might want him.
The thing is, too, that Lamar Jackson has been lighting it up in the rookie camps. They keep saying how impressive he looks, so that's something. All right, so resetting the timer, we're moving on. I decided not to use the annoying loud bell this time, though CJ's not here, so I think it'd been more fun if I had, but whatever. So we're moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals. So who are the winners and losers for you in Cincinnati?
Winners and losers. Winner, Andy Dalton. the Bengals finally getting serious about their offensive line. They added a lot of offensive line help. I love that. I love seeing that. So Andy Dalton's going to get an opportunity to not have to run for his life the entire freaking down. Joe Mixon, also, same thing. Got some help on the offensive line. That's going to help him out. And they didn't really get any serious contenders to challenge him for touches. So I think this is Joe Mixon's a big winner for me. Losers, possibly the wide receivers. Anyone who's not named A.J. Green. Auden Tate was taken very, very late, and much later than I thought it was going to be taken. I think it's because of injury. And he's 6'5", 225 pounds. This is a big dude. He could be a red zone weapon. He could take a lot of touches if he proves himself to be as good as I think he is.
I agree. I had basically the exact same names down. I thought that Andy Dalton was a huge winner because they didn't take a quarterback to the 7th round. Obviously, a big winner because they burned a first-round pick on a center, and, of course, they spent the free agency upgrading the offensive line as well, so that will definitely help Andy Dalton. That helps the wide receivers. That obviously helps the running game. We all hope that Joe Mixon takes a big step this year. We all think that he could be something very special in this league, and I think he has a much better opportunity to do that this year. I also thought Tyler Eifert was a winner because they didn't even draft a tight end, so he's having another chance. The former 2013 first-round pick. He got a prove-it deal with the Bengals this year. Let's see if he can pull it all together, stay healthy, because we've all seen when healthy, he is an explosive, high, boom-bust tight end. I mean, he doesn't do a ton for yardage, but he gets a lot of touchdowns. He's a big red zone threat, and his presence on the field helps A.J. Green run a little bit less triple covered. So I like it. Go ahead.
If the Bengals have actually got a very sneaky good offense suddenly. I mean, they got Joe Mixon, who could be arguably one of the better running backs in the league. A.J. Green's one of the best wide receivers. They've got one of the best tight ends. They've got a decent quarterback in Andy Dalton. And some decent depth at the wide receiver position, including the fastest man in the NFL, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I mean, if these guys can pull this together, and now they've got their offensive line finally, taking shape, they might be sneaky good.
Let's see John Ross take a step this year and not put up negative fantasy points on the season.
Well, you can't help but beat that, can you?
Yeah, there's nowhere to go but up. But, yeah, no, I mean, they've always had really good weapons, and I know this as a divisional opponent of mine. I see them, twice a year, and then I monitor them the whole season. But that offensive line, we said it this time last year, that offensive line was going to be the kiss of death for this team, and, man, was it ever. So they have seemingly fixed that problem. Definitely not a bottom offensive line. I would say they're middle to upper end now. I don't think they're elite, but they've definitely drastically improved. So, yeah, the Bengals taking a big step, and the entire offense has improved because of it. And 2-1, and perfect time. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. So, Jason, tell me about your Cleveland Browns winners and losers for you.
I got Josh Gordon and David Njoku as winners. I think that Austin Corbett is going to help quite a bit as an offensive lineman that took. And anyone who is going to play under center for Cleveland, because we don't really know who's going to end up being the quarterback all year for them. It's going to give them a chance to find their weapons. And they also took a couple weapons, including number 1 tight end and a wide receiver, so that's pretty nice. Losers, I got Carlos Hyde. Nick Chubb is very, very good, and I think he's a better between the tackles runner than Carlos Hyde is. So I think he's going to challenge him for first and second down duty plus goal line duty. And, of course, Tyrod Taylor, because when you take a quarterback, as in Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall, more than likely your fan base is going to start clamoring to see him the second that Tyrod looks like he made any kind of mistake.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing. Because remember, we talked about when Carlos Hyde signed that contract that it was, it's a multi-year deal, but it really was basically a 1-year deal. So I felt for sure that they were going to either address the situation or enjoy having the flexibility in future seasons. Nick Chubb comes in and is going to immediately be pushing for touches. I think this becomes kind of a split committee almost right off the bat. Tyrod Taylor, obviously a big loser here because Baker Mayfield is right in the wings behind him. So, if he looks impressive in preseason at all, which, number 1 overall pick, you sure expect that to be the case. I could see a world where this is contested, and we've heard how Hugh Jackson has said that this is Tyrod Taylor's job. It's going to be his offense, his team, and it's going to be his 2018 season. We'll see how that goes if the coaching seat gets a little bit warm through the season. Obviously, the offensive weapons, they remain basically untouched, and that I would say that they weren't really in great fear of that happening. They did add a 4th-round wide receiver, Antonio Callaway, who definitely I like the upside of him. They added some offensive line help as well. So I like the whole offense here, especially for fantasy. And they added Denzel Ward, another first-round pick, obviously the 4th overall pick, the top corner taken in the draft. And he is probably going to help this defense out, maybe keep them more competitive in games. All it takes is, them to get off the field on 3rd down every now and then to get them in better scoring positions. So this could really help the whole team. I mean, obviously, there's nowhere to go but up. This team was winless last year. I'm starting to get into the whole mindset that this team could be closer to a 500 team than they are going to be a team with only 2 or 3 wins. I don't know. How do you feel about that? You agree? So, any parting thoughts? We got about 20 seconds left.
Like you said, I think this team is better than a lot of people think it is, just because if you look at their how much they've won recently, they haven't won a lot. But then you look at the talent that they've been accruing. They just had so many picks recently. Myles Garrett is going to get an opportunity to run wild in the backfield, because guess what? You've got Denzel Ward now as one of your corners, and they're vastly improved on in the defense. So I do like me some Cleveland Browns.
Yep, and time. All right, on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, Pittsburgh. Jason, take it away.
Le'Veon Bell, big winner. Okorafor will be a nice addition to the line. I saw him going a little bit earlier, actually. I had him mocked a little bit earlier. So they got kind of a steal on him. Even if he's just an additional backup on the line, that's still good for them. That's going to give them some depth. Jalen Samuel is a running back that they took, but he's not really going to challenge Le'Veon Bell for any carries, so he shouldn't be concerned about that. Loser, Ben Roethlisberger. Mason Rudolph is not going to replace him this year, but Ben obviously doesn't feel very confident about the situation because he's handling it even worse than Joe Flacco's handling his situation over there. The guy in Big Ben has won a Super Bowl. I don't know what his issue is recently, but he needs to chill out. Mason Rudolph is a 3rd-round quarterback, and he's treating him like the mean older brother. So Ben needs to chill out a little bit and just kind of relax,
I mean, he's basically saying that he's not going to help him. So,
right?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I know that this is the future, but you're the one that's been, teasing retirement the last couple of years, Ben. So what do you expect the team to do?
No kidding.
Yeah, you're getting up there in age. I mean, the team has to make moves in case you get hurt, which you always do. Landry Jones has been okay behind you, so they draft Mason Rudolph. So a guy who we said could be a career journeyman, a good backup to have. We don't know if he's ever going to be a franchise quarterback, but I mean the possibility is there. Le'Veon Bell, like I said, I think that the team has continued faith in him. I mean, obviously he's on a franchise tag right now, but I still think a deal gets done because again they didn't really bring anyone in. They brought in a running back in unrestricted free agent running back. James Conner, of course, pretty happy to still be there right behind him. They brought in some offensive line help. So, I mean, I think this offense just kind of keeps rolling the way it's been going, and they really spent a decent amount of picks on the defensive side as well, obviously grabbing a free safety with their first pick in Terrell Edmonds, and various other defensive back players and some defensive line. I mean, as a whole, this Pittsburgh Steelers team has not been the defense that I've known over the years. Obviously, the Ravens-Steelers matchups where it was always, the first team to get to double digits wins kind of thing. It's been the Steelers that are one of the most explosive offenses in the league as of late. Defense has suffered. They made some efforts, including bringing a number of unsigned rookies. So we'll see how it all shakes out for the team. But, I would say Roethlisberger, a big loser. Pretty much everyone else on the team, their situation has not changed, so you got to say that they're a winner. The one that stood out to me was Jesse James is definitely a big winner here because they didn't even touch the tight end position. And, I mean, he's been good, but he has not been great. He's not been an elite tight end in the league. So, I thought Jesse James was one of those sneaky winners as well. All right, let's move on. We are now moving from the AFC North to the AFC East, and we start with the Buffalo Bills. Jason, tell me about Buffalo.
Shady McCoy, big winner. No one drafted to challenge him for touches. And I think he's going to reap the benefits of whoever the quarterback ends up being, because they're going to probably have to check that ball down quite a bit to him as they get used to this offense. Charles Clay I've also got as a winner because, look, depending on who the quarterback is, you got A.J. McCarron and you got Josh Allen. Clay's going to get a lot of looks. McCarron likes to throw to the tight end. He's coming out of the Bengals with Tyler Eifert. They like to throw to him a lot. He's that kind of a quarterback, very game manager type, shorter throws. And then Josh Allen, despite that giant, massive arm, he really likes shorter throws, for some reason. So he likes to go to his tight end as well. So I think either way, Charles Clay is going to get a lot of passes going his direction. And then losers, I've actually got Josh Allen as a loser because he is not ready to start in this league right now.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he is not ready to start at all, but he's obviously going to probably have to. And then, of course, the other loser being A.J. McCarron because Josh Allen is going to start over him.
I agree. I had exactly that. I had A.J. McCarron being a big loser here. Nathan Peterman, obviously, who was backing him up before the draft pick of Josh Allen. And then, of course, Josh Allen, because he goes to a team and a system where I don't think that he's surrounded with great talent. The offense is not that explosive. He doesn't have any real great wide receivers. Kelvin Benjamin is good when force-fed the ball. Zay Jones, we've yet to really see anything. Charles Clay is one of the really good sleeper tight ends of the league, and I have him down as a winner, like you said, because they didn't bring in anybody. I think he could be a nice addition. But, I mean, like you said, he's not ready. Out of the five quarterbacks, the top five quarterbacks taken in the draft, he was the one that I think needed the most development, and he's the one that's most likely going to be starting week 1. So yep. I have pretty much losers across the board here, except for maybe Charles Clay and LaShawn McCoy. I guess you could say Kelvin Benjamin and Zay Jones were winners because they didn't bring in anybody till the 6th round. But it's I don't want to crap on Buffalo here. If you're a Buffalo fan, sorry, but I mean it's a tough situation. So LaShawn McCoy, he's leading. They brought in Chris Ivory. He's going to be backing him up, and we already talked about all the other weapons. They needed some offensive line help. They didn't really get any. They grabbed a 5th-round right guard. So in Wyatt Teller, I believe was his name, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there it is, Wyatt Teller.
Yeah.
So and they got some defensive pieces, but they didn't really have that many draft picks. I don't know. It's kind of underwhelming, and Sean McDermott's gonna have to pull some magic out of a hat somewhere. So, any parting thoughts before we move on?
Well, the thing I did like to see is that they did upgrade their defense quite a bit. They got a lot of really good players, including Tremaine Edmonds. So that could help get the ball back on the offensive side more often.
Yeah, it could. I mean, he's disruptive, which will be nice, but we're out of time. All right, on to the next team. We have the Miami Dolphins. So, Jason, tell me about the Dolphins, your winners and losers.
Winners, Ryan Tannehill. There were a lot of options at quarterback, obviously, this year, but Miami opted not to go with any of them. Also, he scored an extremely upside tight end in Gesicki, who is going to be just a matchup nightmare for defenses. As far as losers, I actually didn't have any losers for Miami. Everybody kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, I would say that obviously Ryan Tannehill is a big winner here because they didn't bring in a quarterback to really challenge him. Frank Gore, I believe, is kind of slated to be their starter, which is sad because we like Kenyon Drake, but neither one of them are going to be too challenged because they didn't draft a running back to the 4th round, and Kalen Ballage, is that his name? I don't remember how to say his name. Kalen Ballage, I think, was his name. But yeah,
Ballage or Ballage, yeah.
Ballage, yeah. Obviously Mike Gesicki coming in. He's as we talked about on the show on Friday, I think it was. We expect him to kind of step in and be the Julius Thomas of this offense. Potentially, he could have some nice upside. They didn't really touch the offensive line, which I thought could use a little bit of work. The wide receivers, they are all winners because they didn't bring in anybody else to challenge them. So the Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills train keeps rolling with obviously Danny Amendola in-house now as well. Defensive depth, obviously, I don't know. Their draft was kind of underwhelming, but I didn't think they did anything that was negative. So I'm kind of impartial on their draft. Yeah. They filled some positions of need. They drafted depth. They didn't really – I didn't feel like they got any better with their starters, except for their tight end, obviously second-round Mike Gesicki. So any other thoughts with the Dolphins before we move on?
Well, you know what? I got a loser for you. The kicker. They did draft a kicker.
That's right. They did draft a place kicker.
Overall, so there you go.
What was it? Jason Sanders. Yeah, Sanders in the 7th round was when they got him. So,
yep.
That's a good point. I like that. Nice little sneaky point.
There you go.
All right, let's move on. Next team, the New England Patriots. Yeah. Whoa. Let's talk about them, Jason.
Okay. Well, Tom Brady, a winner. I mean, he's always a winner. Not only did New England not draft a quarterback in the top half of the draft, but they also got themselves a first-round lineman in Isaiah Wynn, who is a very, very good lineman. And they also went out and got who I think is a top 4 running back in Sony Michel, who's another nice weapon for Tom Brady to employ. Losers, the clown car that is the running backs out there in New England. Michel does nearly everything better than most of those backs do anything. So he's going to take a lot of touches, I think.
All right, let me formulate my thought here. All right, so I think that obviously Sony Michel.
You're going to say Rex Burkhead, aren't you?
Well, I think Rex Burkhead is a big loser here. Obviously, Rex Burkhead was slated to kind of step in and just carry the offense. You know, he was going to pick up all the slack. We expected him to be a 3-down back. James White coming in relief as a 3rd down option. Probably Jeremy Hill replacing Mike Gillislee as the red zone back, but that'll be probably decided in training camp. But we thought we had a good grip on it. Then they go and draft first-round running back Sony Michel, which the Patriots aren't going to use a first-rounder on someone and not use them. They always like to feel like they were right. Sony Michel, very explosive, but he's not a workhorse back. He's going to be, as he's been commonly referred to as and compared to as, he's going to be kind of that, why am I blanking on names tonight?
Deion Lewis?
Not Deion Lewis. He's going to be probably filling the Deion Lewis role, but he's, oh my God, Griffin, come on.
Alvin Kamara?
Thank you. God, what is wrong with me? Alvin, he's been commonly compared.
What would you do without me today?
I would be a train wreck. I had the K name in the back of my head. I couldn't remember the first name. Alvin Kamara, he's getting all these comparisons. He's going to be this explosive Swiss Army knife 3rd down option for them. And, yeah, I think he will fill that role. But I don't think he's as explosive as Alvin Kamara is. He's not as fast. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead that are going to be out there kind of like Deion Lewis and Rex Burkhead were last year, and then it's going to be a plethora of these guys that kind of come in and relieve them. They didn't really do anything at the wide receiver position, so those guys are all kind of stuck in place. Obviously, they brought in Jordan Matthews, who I think is a big winner here because he's kind of slated to slide into a number 1 receiver role with the Patriots now. They didn't really touch the tight end position. Tom Brady, of course, they brought in a 7th-round quarterback. His spot on this offense is uncontested, so I don't think he could have been a loser even if they had drafted one early because they know that as long as he's there, it's going to be him. But, and then obviously the offensive line got help with Isaiah Wynn, like you said, a Swiss Army knife of a guard. He can move around, do a lot of good things. So I think that as a whole, there's a lot of people who are winners here, and then the running back position just got even more diluted, so I'd say all the running backs are losers here.
Right.
And time. All right, moving on. New York Jets. Tell me about the Jets, Jason.
Man, winners, that motley crew of wide receivers that they've got back there. The Jets need a lot of help at wide receiver, in my opinion, but they didn't draft a single wide receiver, which amazes me. And Sam Darnold, I think, is going to be an upgrade for them. So, you got to call the wide receivers in New York winners. And then losers, I got Sam Darnold because he's a very good quarterback. He's going to be a very good quarterback in the league, but he just doesn't have a lot of talent around him. In New York. He's going to be asked to do quite a bit as a young rookie quarterback because I think he's going to end up starting. And again, he just doesn't have a lot of talent. I mean, Robbie Anderson's pretty good. Anunwal's pretty good, but none of them are top shelf receivers. So he's going to have to do quite a bit from the outset.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting situations because, as we've talked about ad nausea, Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, both of them have shown flashes of being able to be kind of that 1A. They can't fill that number 1 role by themselves, but with another distraction, another good weapon on the offense with them, they can both be incredibly good and productive. So I think as long as they're both out there and healthy, a quarterback the caliber of Sam Darnold, who knows? Maybe he gets the most out of them, and he elevates their level, and maybe they are viable options year-round. But that's a lot of stipulation. I definitely think that they are winners because they didn't draft any sort of wide receiver depth. So Quincy Enunwa, Robbie Anderson, definite options for fantasy, deeper options. I wouldn't burn priority on them early rounds, maybe mid-rounds at the earliest.
Right.
But I think that they're also upgraded by Sam Darnold being there. Josh McCown, he had a very good year last year. I don't think he repeats that. I think he kind of pulls a Ryan Fitzpatrick and kind of regresses a little bit. We'll see Sam Darnold in there probably before the year's over, and then that'll be a big boost to them. Isaiah Crowell, probably a loser here, but They didn't really bring in anything until the 6th round, so I don't think it's going to be contesting anything.
Yeah.
It's just such a diluted situation. Isaiah Crowell going from a guaranteed 1-2 role in Cleveland to now with the Jets, where it's just so many backs. Thomas Rawls is there. Elijah McGuire's there. Bilal Powell's there. They now drafted a 6th-round rookie. Lawrence Thomas is there. So I still say that he is a loser from the whole offseason as a whole. And then on the defensive side, they drafted a lot of depth. And I don't know. Who do you think is going to be the starting pass-catching tight end for them? Is it going to be Jordan Leggett, who they kind of have penciled in right now, Clive Walford, who they got from the Raiders, or this Christopher Herndon, whatever his name is, that they got in the 4th round? Herndon, thank you.
Christopher Herndon, yeah. I think Walford will probably end up being the guy.
See, I lean that way, too.
It just seems like the right thing. But, again, this is the thing about the Jets. Recently, they're kind of morphing their offense to fit whatever works. You know what I mean? It's like they go with what works, and if it doesn't work, they switch it up. So I think that's really smart. I would like to see them go get some talent so they can actually do that with a little bit better consistency. But yeah, I think Walford probably.
Yeah, and time. We'll see how it shakes out. Todd Bowles and Jeremy Bates. Let's see some magic. Let's go to the AFC South. We start with the Houston Texans. So, Jason, take it away.
Deshaun Watson's got to be considered a big winner. He got a 2nd-round tackle, always a good thing for a quarterback to upgrade that offensive line. Really good wide receiver, and 2 tight ends. It's got to be like Christmas for this guy. Then, of course, Lamar Miller and Deontay Foreman. No running backs were taken by the Houston Texans. I guess they figured they had a pretty good duo going on. And they upgraded the O-line. So you got to give those 2 running backs a winner status. And then losers, I would say the entire tight end room. You draft 2 tight ends in the draft, one of them in the 3rd round. It's not a good sign.
Yeah, I had Lamar Miller as a massive winner because, I mean, we were talking about how they might cut him. He hasn't really lived up to his contract from his days that he was a Miami Dolphin. Houston just hasn't gotten that same magic out of him. And we thought they might dump his contract, but Deontay Foreman being banged up, we knew that it would probably come down to free agency or the draft. They didn't draft anyone, so I think Lamar Miller steps in for the 3rd year as a Texan as the number 1 starter there, and Deontay Foreman, as he comes back from his late Achilles injury, he'll work in as a change of pace back. I don't think Alfred Blue or Tyler Irvin or any of these guys are going to be competing. Wide receivers, they didn't do anything till the 4th round, but I didn't think that DeAndre Hopkins obviously is uncontested, and Will Fuller we saw can be very, very good, especially with Deshaun Watson. So, I think that the main takeaway here was just kind of like you said, Lamar Miller, winner, tight ends, Ryan Griffin, for instance, losers, and then they drafted 3rd round on depth at the defensive side. I don't think anyone who's going to step in as a starter week 1, so you could argue that there's a number of starters across the defensive side that were winners, but that's kind of my thoughts, and we're out of time, so let's move on. The Indianapolis Colts, winners and losers there, Jason.
Oh, man, we need a sound effect here of just like this giant crowd cheering because that's what Indianapolis should be doing right now. Andrew Luck, finally a winner. They go out and they draft one of the best, offensive lineman in the draft at number 6 overall in Quentin Nelson. The guy is a beast. And then they go out and get another O-lineman at the top of the 2nd round. That is absolutely what they should do. So it's almost like they want Andrew Luck to live this year. It's like, we would like you to keep breathing for us. Thank you.
Yeah,
losers.
right.
Robert Turbin and Josh Ferguson. Look, they drafted a young guy by the name of Naheem Hines. Okay? He was taken late. However, he's very, very fast. He ran a sub-4 440. He's a dual-threat back. He can catch out of the backfield. So he's not going to challenge those big bruisers for 1st and 2nd down touches. However, he is going to probably be a better option than the incumbents, Turbin and Ferguson. Possibly. So we'll see what happens.
See, I definitely had Marlon Mack as a loser here. They didn't invest early round value into the running back position, but they drafted one with their 4th and 5th round picks, an early 4th, by the way.
Yeah.
So Marlon Mack was just a 4th round pick. So this situation just got pretty congested.
Muddy.
It's going to be very muddy. Yes, that's a good word for it. I thought that the wide receivers, I mean, obviously T.Y. Hilton wasn't going anywhere, but Ryan Grant somehow seemingly got himself a legit starting role in the league for having such a small workload in Washington, because they didn't start drafting wide receivers till the 5th round. And these guys, I think, are all project guys. They, like you said, they grabbed Quentin Nelson, an amazing left guard, and he will really help this offensive line as they try to keep Andrew Luck healthy. They also brought in Matt Slauson, I think is how you say his name. He was a Chargers offensive guard. So they're buffing up that offensive line, something they've been needing to do for years. So Andrew Luck, assuming he comes back healthy, I think this helps the running game. This helps keep him upright, which helps him with the passing game. So T.Y. Hilton, Andrew Luck, and whoever emerges as the lead back are all winners here. And Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron, obviously, they are going to cannibalize each other's production, but nobody else was drafted, so that kind of stays the same. And then they got some defensive depth. They drafted a middle linebacker in the 2nd round, which I think could probably, and Darius Leonard, who I think will step in and be the starter before it's all said and done. And then
could very well be, yeah.
What was the other what the heck was his name? Other linebacker that they got in the 2nd round.
In the second round, are you talking about
Kamoko Toure?
Toure?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a nice addition for them.
Toure.
Yeah, he's going to put on some nice pressure, and they also got a defensive end in Taquan Lewis. So I think the defense as a whole is pretty darn upgraded. I think that they're going to be more competitive. I still think the Colts are still a little bit of a project team. I still think they're pretty in the depths of a rebuild right now, but I think they've made a lot of good picks to shore up a lot of positions of need. They drafted a lot, and they brought in a lot of unsigned rookies as well on the defensive side. So I think that this team has made a great stride towards being competitive again, and we'll see if they put it all together. Having a franchise quarterback under center can do a lot, so if Andrew Luck can stay healthy and get in there, I mean, that could turn this whole team around by itself. So we'll see, but we're out of time. We have to move on. Jacksonville Jaguars. So, Jason, thoughts here?
Love him or hate him, Blake Bortles is a winner.
Huge winner.
He got himself a new tackle and a very, very good wide receiver, one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. And speaking of which, losers, Marquise Lee, because DJ Chark is extremely fast, very talented, and is very, very likely to challenge for some touches. And I think that could eat into Marquise Lee's production because they're the same kind of receiver.
See, I think Marquise Lee is safe. I think that DJ Chark is going to supplant Dante Moncrief as the other starter. I think it's going to be those three guys that are going to kind of rotate in, and Keenan Cole in as well, maybe D.D. Westbrook. There's a lot of guys who I think are around the same talent pool, but I think DJ Chark obviously has that pedigree of possibly giving them that's something that they need to kind of spark this offense. Blake Bortles a massive winner here because they didn't draft a quarterback until the 6th round, so this is probably a camp arm. Tanner Lee, who's I had in my notes as being very much a developmental piece. I don't think that he's going to be anything to even remotely worry about. He's got a long way to go. He has an NFL frame, but honestly, I thought that was about it. I think he's going to be a backup in this league.
Probably.
Yeah, offensive line help, which will help Blake Bortles stay upright, but obviously more than anything, really will help with Leonard Fournette. They obviously brought in Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and I think that he's a big winner here because behind him, they don't really have too much. Niles Paul, they brought in from Washington, but I don't expect him to be anything more than the number 2 tight end. I think that Austin Seferian-Jenkins is going to be a red zone threat for them. The wide receivers, we talked about, the running backs, they did a good draft. Again, they've been drafting pretty darn well. And let's not forget, they also got themselves a new nose tackle in the 1st round. So this defense continues to stack talent as they know that they are going to have big contracts coming up. And I really like what the Jags have been doing these last couple of seasons. I mean, this is a team that very easily could have been in the Super Bowl. So any parting thoughts, Jason? I think they've just improved.
I agree with you. I think that they're stacking up a lot of talent. I think this is a really good team. They got better since last year, and that's scary considering how far they got.
Yeah, I think their defense has definitely improved. I mean, what did they even lose this offseason? They lost, I mean, obviously,
Allen Robinson.
I was going to say a massive loss in Allen Robinson, but beyond that, Chris Ivory, meh. Allen Hurns,
that's pretty much it.
Chad Henne, meh. Then a couple other pieces that people wouldn't even know who we were talking about, so we'll just move on. So, but yeah, I think the Jags have they're they're playing the salary cap game incredibly well right now, knowing that they're not paying a massive contract to their quarterback and they're just stocking their team with talent before a lot of those contracts come up. They're making a run for the Super Bowl now. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch again this year. All right, but let's move on. Titans. I was about to say let's go to the West, but no, we still have the Titans. I can't forget the Titans. So remember the Titans. Jason, tell me about the Tennessee Titans.
Well, you can almost forget the Titans because they didn't do much in this draft as far as offense goes.
That's true.
I would say their weapons all are winners because they stay the same. They didn't draft the running back, they didn't draft the wide receiver, they didn't draft the tight end. So everybody kind of stays where they are. Loser, Marcus Mariota. No new weapons, like I said. And they drafted Luke Falk, a talented quarterback who could very well look over Mariota and Gabbert's shoulders. People have talked about this guy, Luke Falk, as being sort of like a Tom Brady type. If he's in the right kind of system, he could flourish, he could be very good, or he could be a journeyman backup. It all really depends on how well he adjusts to the NFL. The bottom line here is Mariota looked very bad last year, and hopefully he takes a step forward this year, but again, they have not upgraded his weapons.
I found it interesting that I had Falk actually going way earlier than the 6th round.
Me too.
I thought he was going to be probably like a 3rd or 4th round quarterback, honestly.
Yeah, I had him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, he's even listed as being a potential NFL starter one day. Developmental piece, of course, but I mean, he's a tall, really lean quarterback. He's really good at rhythm passing. He's got really good anticipation. I think that he's got based on everything I saw, and he's referred to as having really good football intelligence as well. I think in the right tools with a good timing-based system, he could be a really sneaky, decent quarterback in this league. It will add pressure in the quarterback room. I think that when it's all said and done, he will be backing up Marcus Mariota. Blaine Gabbert, I mean, we've seen flashes of, but I think that we know what we have in Blaine Gabbert here. The wide receivers, all winners here. I hope that we see a lot more out of Corey Davis this year. Rashard Matthews, a big winner. Tywan Taylor and Michael Campanaro, a signing from my Ravens. He's a kind of Swiss Army knife type piece. I think all these guys were pretty much winners. Delaney Walker, a huge winner because, I mean, he is really long in the tooth, and they did not even address the position this offseason. So, I mean, obviously they brought – oh, actually, no, I'm looking at the wrong page. I was going to say they brought in Niles Paul. I thought the Jags brought in Niles Paul. I'm still looking at the Jags. Duh. No, they didn't bring in any other tight ends. So, I mean, as much as you love him or hate him, he's definitely a winner. They added some defensive depth, but they only had 4 draft picks. So, really, you either liked what they did this offseason to this point or not. I mean, obviously, they brought in Malcolm Butler, which is a huge piece for the defense. They brought in Dion Lewis. So, we kind of have Derrick Henry as being a loser of the offseason, so that's worth mentioning. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's about it for Tennessee.
All right, well, let's take it home. Let's get to the West, the Wild West, and we'll start with the Denver Broncos. Jason, take it away.
I'm going to say for the entire offseason, Case Keenum is going to be a winner here. I think he goes to a very, very good, underrated team, which is funny to say about Denver that they're underrated. But I think this is a very good team. They got a great receiving core, and they added to that great receiving core with a massive target in Cortland Sutton. He's big, he's pretty fast, and he's going to add a lot of depth to that receiving core. However, I have a hard time saying that he's going to snipe away receptions from those 2 main guys, Emmanuel Sanders and Thomas. I don't know. I hesitate to put them as losers because Cortland Sutton is a rookie, but he is going to be a nice addition in the red zone, in my opinion. My losers I do have, however, are the running backs, Andy Janovich and Devontae Booker, because Royce Freeman was drafted by the Broncos. He was drafted late. However, he's an underrated, very productive running back. He has good size. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's very powerful, and he could take some touches, especially around the goal line.
Well, Andy Janovich, he doesn't have anything to worry about because he's in as their fullback. But yeah, Devontae Booker, he's got a lot of competition, third round pick. D'Angelo Henderson, obviously, he's on notice as well. They also brought in unrestricted free agent running back in Philip Lindsay. I definitely have Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders as being huge losers here because basically what the signing of Cortland Sutton tells me is that it's not going to be this year. But next year, one of them is going to be gone. I guarantee it. Because they also got Deshaun Hamilton in the 4th round. So one, if not both of these guys, will probably be gone as they purge salary cap. I also have them down as losers because, as I have mentioned numerous times, I am not a fan of Case Keenum as their franchise quarterback that they're trying to make him. So I was really hoping that they would get their hands on one of these top guys who's there was 1 or 2 that were available. But they went and got Bradley Chubb, who was an undeniable pick. I mean, a lot of people had him as the 2nd overall pick in their projections and just, talent as a prospect. So the fact that they got him where they did at 5, they couldn't not take him there, I don't think. So, the defense gets some pieces that it desperately needs because they had numerous departures this offseason. So I think anything they can to make that defensive unit as stout as it used to be is obviously beneficial to them. I think we pretty much covered it here. I still think that they need something at the tight end position. 5th round pick of Troy, I can never say his name, Fugamali, I think is his name.
Sure.
He's there competing with Jake Butt and Jeff Heuerman. I'm really bad with these names. I don't think any of these guys.
Jake Butt's going to be really good. He's going to end up being very good.
He was a prospect with a lot of upside last year as a 5th round pick. We saw flashes. We'll see how it all shakes out. But, I mean, they got a lot of offensive line help as well, so that will help things. But we'll see. I don't think there's a lot to be too excited about. There's definitely a lot of losers. They up their defense. This is a team that I still stand by that they're retooling. I don't think they're rebuilding, but they're definitely not where they want to be, and I still don't think they are post the draft. So we'll see. All right, let's move it on. Let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Jason, tell me about the Chiefs.
Man, I think you got to call Patrick Mahomes a winner because look at this freaking draft. Linebacker, defensive tackle, linebacker, safety. These guys, as cornerback, these guys took nothing but defense until their very last pick where they took a guard, which, of course, last pick, so that's just a depth pick. But what does that tell me? That tells me that Kansas City is trying to get that defense to stay competitive and stay one of the better defenses in the league, which means that Patrick Mahomes is going to get more opportunities to sling that ball down the field. As far as losers, I don't have any. Nobody, like I said, nobody got drafted as far as weapons. So everybody kind of stays where they are.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, my biggest winner here this entire offseason, easily Patrick Mahomes. I mean, not only is he the starter because they trade away Alex Smith, but they brought in Sammy Watkins to go with Tyreek Hill, freaking Travis Kelce, and Kareem Hunt. So they're taking a page out of the Eagles playbook. Look, we have a young prospect that we think is incredibly talented that can win championships. Let's take the opportunity that we have that we don't have to pay this guy a stupid contract and surround him with the best talent that money can buy, and that's what they're doing right now. So, he's a huge winner. Yep. They're giving him every opportunity to succeed early. They're pursuing those rookie contract Super Bowls. They massively overhauled the defense, where the defense was good last year. They added a lot of depth across the board. Yeah. They brought in a couple of corners. They didn't really draft a true cornerback though until the what was it? The 6th round, I think it was. Tremont Smith was a 6th rounder, right? And they also signed a couple guys that were unrestricted free agents, or undrafted, I should say. So I mean, they brought in a lot of defensive pieces. So they're really trying to make this team really balanced. This is going to be a sneaky team, and honestly, I think it's going to be between the Chiefs and the Chargers for sure to take the crown of this division. And they've given me no reason to doubt that. So they're going to live and die by the performance of Patrick Mahomes, though. I just want to make that perfectly clear. Because behind them is Chad Henne, who we've seen Chad Henne. He is kind of like what we were saying with Blaine Gabbert. We know who he is. So, no losers. Probably you could say a lot of winners because nobody is really being challenged for starting snaps or anything. So, let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Speaking of, so, Jason, winners and losers there.
Well, I'm on record saying that I think these guys are going to be very, very good this year. And Phillip Rivers is a big winner for me after the draft. They went out and they got themselves a center in Questenberry, and I actually had him rated much higher than where he went. So that's going to be a really nice piece for them. Probably depth because they do like their line already. But he could be a starter in my opinion. Plus, the Chargers just keep adding weapons, man. Dylan Cantrell is a big-bodied receiver. He's going to be a really nice weapon for them. And my goodness, the Chargers, they're like, if you saw their golf bag, it'd just be bristling with with all these, like, really expensive clubs. You know, as far as losers, again, I don't really have any. They went out and they did what they needed to do. They didn't really grab anybody that's going to really challenge for a lot of touches. I guess maybe you could call a couple of the wide receivers losers because of Dylan Cantrell, but he's going to have to earn those touches.
Yeah, no, I don't think Dylan Cantrell is going to be anything. They've got so much depth already with Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, Mike Williams, and Travis Benjamin. He's going to be lucky if he sees the field. He's a 6th-round pick. Definitely developmental wide receiver. They invested a 5th-round pick in a center. 7th-round pick at a running back, but I don't think Melvin Gordon was ever at any risk of being a loser here. So, I mean, that's just depth, obviously. They went and got themselves a 1st-round strong safety in Derwin James, an outside linebacker, and I freaking hate this name, Uchiena Nwasu, I think is how you say his name. So a lot of defensive pieces, and in a lot of ways,
I think that's right, actually.
I think so. I practiced that one. Look, the defense was definitely the weak part of this team last year. When this team can stay healthy, they can compete with pretty much anyone, and they caught fire as the season went on. They were just pretty much already eliminated by the time that they did. If they can stay healthy and keep that momentum going, which some of these defensive players can be immediate contributors, kind of how Joey Bosa was a couple years ago, I mean, we're looking at a team that could have great field position more regularly, and this is a dynamic offense. They could be a dangerous team to compete with as long as all the cards fall right and they are able to stay healthy, something that has been a tall task as a Ravens fan, who I'm used to that being a problem with us as well. 2 of the most injured teams of the last couple of years. So I really like the Chargers here, and I really like Phillip Rivers' opportunity. Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I was going to say one of my favorite picks in the entire draft was at number 17, Derwin James. How in the world did Derwin James fall all the way to 17? This guy was probably the best safety in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
Just an awesome player. Playmaker, has a nose for the ball. So, yeah, they definitely got better with just that one pick on the defense.
Yeah, no, he's amazing in the run, covering in the pass. I had him as my top safety, and in fact, I saw him as a top 10 prospect. So the fact that they got him at 17 was pretty impressive. So let's take it home. Last team that we have to talk about, the Oakland Raiders. So Jason, tell me about the Raiders.
Well, you got to call Derek Carr a winner. He actually got 2 tackles out of this draft, pretty good, including Colton Miller, which a lot of people were expecting to go later. I think they reached for Colton Miller. I think they definitely could have traded back and still ended up getting him because they took him number 15 overall. I had Colton Miller going near the bottom of the 1st round or the top of the 2nd. So bit of a reach, but still, he's a good tackle. And then they went out and got another tackle at number 65. They brought in Brandon Parker. So that's all good news for Derek Carr. Going to give him an opportunity to stay upright and get the ball down the field. As far as everybody else, don't really have too many losers because they went out and got themselves a bunch of defensive pieces around those offensive tackles. And they didn't really sign anybody as a weapon until the 7th round. So there you go.
I mean, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. I had Colton Miller as a 2nd rounder. He's not super mobile. He's defined as needing to work on his lower body strength, and I completely agree. I feel like he's not super helpful in run blocking, getting to the 2nd level, stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously that's a negative impact on the running game there because I think he's going to step in and be the week 1 starter at right tackle. We'll see. But, I mean, look, adding positive depth on the offensive line is never a bad thing. This will definitely help Derek Carr, which hopefully will help him buy time to get Jordy Nelson, Amari Cooper, obviously, and the newly acquired Martavis Bryant all out there running around, and hopefully they get open. I'll say that all 3 of those guys were winners as well, unless you want to include Martavis Bryant, who was a trade during the draft, and then you could say Jordy Nelson was a big loser. If we want to go that route, then yeah, Jordy Nelson, huge loser to me. But if we want to exclude that and talk specifically draft picks, yeah, they're all winners because they didn't draft a wide receiver until the 7th round in Marcel Aitman, and I don't think he's going to be much of a threat for touches Marshawn Lynch, big winner here. They didn't even draft a running back. They signed a undrafted guy. So he's going to be good. Doug Martin, a big winner behind him, so he still has an opportunity to back him up. Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington are there as well, so it's congested. Got a lot of defensive picks. I like all the picks on the defensive line. This will really help this team. Khalil Mack's already there, so some of them I thought were redundant, like Arden Key. I didn't understand that signing because he's a third-round pick, and he's going to definitely be a backup just based on where he lines up. So they added good depth. I think that this is going to be a good team. They're going to compete. Some of the picks were a little bit questionable, but some definite winners and losers here. Any other parting thoughts?
I like the Nick Nelson pick at 110. I thought he would go much higher. So I think they got a nice value pick there.
I agree. All right. Well, hey, Jason, guess what? We did it.
What?
We went all the way around the league that fast. So let me bring up the time. Oh wow, and we just hit an hour, so it worked out perfectly. So I guess let's get the heck out of here.
Good.
Obviously, look, guys, we know we overlooked things. We didn't talk about everything. There's a lot more we could talk about on all of these teams. There is. But this is just a quick overview. This is the stuff you need to know, especially as you're going into keeper league drafts, dynasty drafts, rookie drafts. These are the kind of things you want to think about and the impacts of who you're going to be wanting to and not wanting to keep. So there's a lot more to talk about. We'll cover it as the offseason goes on. And make sure you guys come back on Friday when we're going to be doing the exact same thing, but we'll be going around the NFC, possibly with more input because CJ should be back. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you want to follow the show, we're all over the place. We're on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Obviously, comment down below if you have anything you thought we overlooked and you want to know our input on. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. We answer questions there quite frequently. Or you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF and Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. So with that, we're out of here. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Any parting thoughts, Jason?
I just got to say, I think this draft was one of the better drafts I've seen as far as teams making smart moves. There wasn't too many boneheaded maneuvers. This was a pretty good draft.
It was a very deep draft in the middle of the draft. You heard a lot of teams say that, and you definitely see it. A lot of good picks for a lot of teams and a lot of positions of need even. So I agree. I liked it. All right, so we're out of here. Everyone take care. We'll be back on Friday unless you see us over on Patreon. Guys, take care. Bye.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down. Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't stop now. I don't really know where I'm headed, just enjoying the ride. Just gonna roll till I drop and ride till I die.